Hi Elly, just going through your work. This is good. Just play through it a few times. A lot of the principles there, just a few things that I want to just go through with you. It's mainly to do with the way things move. I think that your ideas with the way you're shifting weight are working. There's a few things, just little hiccupy things, which you might want to look at. I'll just create a new layer on this, as I'm looking at this in Photoshop. So here where we got this first little movement here, I'm sure you're aware of that. I think that what we're seeing here is something you need to look inside your graph editor. When you've keyed this foot in this position here and it hits the ground and then comes up and then comes down again, what's probably happening in your graph editor is that you are coming down, say this is the translation in Y, you're coming down and you're setting a keyframe here. And so let's say at frame, let's say frame 1, and at frame 5 here you've got your foot and it's coming up again. And that should be fine normally. But what happens with the way Maya does its keyframes and with its Bezier handles is that it may do something like this. It may push it underneath, or it might do this as well, which is kind of what I'm seeing here. It's hitting the ground and then it's coming up a little bit and then back down again and staying there. So what you're probably seeing is not even that. It's more likely something like this, where you've got your ground, your keyframe coming in, that's the keyframe coming in, and it might be another keyframe there, but it's doing something like that. There's a little bit of a jump in there. That's the first thing, because I like the fact that you're getting your weight across there. That's fine. Your could probably have things a little bit more fluidly moving with the hips, because they come across, and then at that moment there you can see that they just stop and then they come down again. So we have our hips on a level here, and then they just jump down there and then go across. So you probably want to have that more on an arc from that position to that position, because you're going down using that leg somewhat as a pivot. So we should feel that arc moving across there. And here, what we're doing here as well, to lift that foot off the ground, another thing would be that you really are supporting the whole body on this one foot. So in a way, this shape here of the body should be more over that foot. Now it might be a little bit back here, but that shape there should in one way or another be positioned over that foot. So here, let's just go this way. More of the weight needs to be over that knee. Now just a little bit more, say just a little bit further forward, so that that weight, if you take the foot off the ground, that weight is going to stay there. So you can happily lift that foot off the ground and not worry about, let me just increase my brush a bit, losing balance. And that's the main thing that we've got to concern ourselves with, is the way the character's losing balance. Because when you go into this position, every one of those poses, you want to make sure that you're able to balance. So here we're in balance, here we're not quite in balance. Most of the body mass is on that side of the center, once you do this, I think that this works in terms of getting your balance across the center line. And every time you start to extend things out to one side like that, you need to compensate that with some other movement, whether that means that you're doing something with the other leg to allow that to happen, so shifting the body mass back so that that can actually happen. Because here we've got our center line, but if you've got this mass more to the center here, it's going to tend to make it feel as though it's going to fall forward. So you need to be constantly aware visually what's going to happen at the moment that does feel a bit like it's off balance. And in a way, you can deal with that in several ways. One way might be to move the body more over the center, so there's a definite feeling of support. But I think really the more you're doing this, to get that to happen, you really need to either to do something with the head to allow that mass to go backwards so that it balances. And just as a final note with this one of the things that also is important to remember, you'll notice that through this entire sequence here, your pelvis is more or less in one position. And that really can't happen. As you shift this leg forward, what's going to happen is that this pelvis is going to go further and further backwards. So if I was to quickly create a video layer in here, let's insert a page here. I'll get rid of that one. So at this stage here, if we've got our foot at that position, assuming that that's where you were, the next position, the body's going to go back a bit. So the more you kick out, the more that bum is going to go backwards. The foot was going to stay positioned, and you might have an adjustment in the knee there, but as you kick out, you need to do something to balance that weight there. So that might mean that they are that there might be this sort of movement here across the foot. This might be up like that for that pose, and you might get a reversal as the kick comes out. But there should again always be this overarching feeling as though that there's a conservation of balance from one side of the center line to the other. And that's really one of those things, as I was saying before, that you need to look at every single body part that can be affected by that movement and adjust it accordingly. Because even though realistically, if you were an absolute ninja master, you might be able to keep all that strength through that foot and keep that balance. The chances are that as you are going through this motion, at this point here, if you're at this position, as you start to lower down, the pelvis will come in closer and then closer and then possibly even straight up and down. So as you're going, lifting this foot up, you'll feel more and more of a shift of that weight going backwards. Okay, so the main thing you want to feel there is that as you're progressing, that there's some change in the way that that weight is being distributed. Okay, if you're going to maintain your balance. And that's the two main things that we got here. One is that little more of a 3D issue there, and the way that you balance yourself. Because I think that again, here perhaps another issue is if you look at the way that the feet move. Let me go into the shorter version of this. Come on, hurry up. You're going to kind of feel it as well. If I press play, the kick feels more organic if there's a ricochet back in to maintain that balance. Have it through the whole body. But what I was just about to say then, let me hide that layer. Sorry, it's the lecture being uploaded. The other thing I wanted to say here is also in the position, and that kind of relates to what I was saying before. Because this, you can see in this one, I'm moving, or the pelvis moves back. Another way of looking at that is that with that pelvis there, it doesn't actually move through that entire time. It stays fixed there. But that, I've explained that before in the way that you need to conserve your weight. But that's the two telltale signs of something that doesn't quite feel that it's been properly balanced. And having a particular part of the body stuck in space is always something you should be aware of. The alarm bell should trigger off in your head. So this is all good, except it's that one spot there. We really want to make sure that we balance and keep those different body parts moving.